Well, reading it is one thing because as with anything, you have your own imagination and that takes precedent over where it can go. So my personal experience of reading almost live versus to narrating the audiobook is, I mean, they're quite similar because I selfishly just went with what I thought, and my instincts. And I think it's been written in such a way that the characters are very clear and they're very strong in that way. And I can see them and I can therefore hear them and I can hear where they're going to go. So for me, it's just been really fun to be able to give voice to that of what's going on in my head. I think the book is wonderful. It's very emotional and real and almost, like the subjects that it's discussing, it is a piece of art in its own way. And their love story is really interesting. And I don't think I've ever sort of explored a love story in this way. And it feels like a very non-judgmental way of approaching the characters as well, and both of their decisions, and understanding who these two women are at the time that they were, and the decisions that they felt they had to make, versus what they really wanted. Also things like alcoholism, becoming sober, that Laure is dealing with inside the book. That also affects how you will characterize a person, because they're coming from a place of potentially depression. And where do you find them in the beginning of the book? Each character, and then how do you bring, them together and create the journey? So I think for me, it's just been a really, really fun thing to do, because I have been asking all of these questions, and these are all subjects that I'm really, really interested in. I love art. I love poetry. I love love. I love women. For me, I think it's been nice to give a voice to these characters and to give my perspective of it, because I think they're unique and should be different and should be new. I wanted to give it that. My favorite is Laure, because in essence, I believe that she lives the most authentic, to the fullest of her life. Not saying that Erica doesn't either. I think Erica is faced with more complicated decisions of wanting to have kids, but in a world of not knowing how to with a woman, and whether or not she wants to lead that, quote unquote, difficult life, as it's put in there. Which, as in the book, it's a time where a lot of homophobia is happening in public, and it's a time where you cannot be as openly as possible. And she's thinking about that, and she's like, I don't know if I want this for the rest of my life. And that is a decision that shouldn't be judged. So it's interesting as well to approach her and find love for Erica, instead of feeling like, well, I would never do that. And I believe in Laure, and the way that Laure goes about life is really interesting. But Laure also makes some decisions that are not good. Maybe holds on to things for a little too long. Relies on others in a way that maybe she should be relying on herself for. None of which is her fault either. Her mom leaves when she's very young, so she's dealing with a lot of trauma and a lot of pain. And Erica's parents are, from Norfolk, and they've been together forever. And, such a completely different life of what she sees versus what she sees to be life. I think there's an acknowledgement of age and growth, but also at the same time, I'm very aware that when I look at my characters, I'm like, what's the kid in them? Let's find the kid in them, because that's the person that always sort of stays alive throughout. So I do believe that there should be an essence of something that stays, an essence of that light that you recognize in another person that you go throughout. So yes, I did want it to change, but I didn't want it to be like, this is what this person is like. I really want it to come from a place of energy and how that person is feeling at that time. So the change would come from like Laure being sober, for example. Or the change comes from Erica deciding she has been married for some time, but she wants to come back to Paris before she has a kid. So there's a change. There's like a determination in there, or there's like a downtroddenness here. I can only do so much with my voice, so I don't want to be like, oh, this is them getting older. But I think there's maybe more groundedness, more ease in stuff, especially with Laure and how I show her getting older versus Erica, who has anxiety and is growing older in a different way, and is surrounded with kids and her 2 children, but they're her world, So that is a completely different pace, internal pace, vocal pace, like intellectual pace to Laure, who is living alone, who's sober. It's interesting because as an actor, you know, you're constantly living this sort of like double life or vision, or you audition for something and you want something and you almost might get it or you almost might not. So I don't know, you're always living in this sort of dream world of like, oh yeah, that could happen, or that could be doing that. I could be going to Australia in a week, or I'm staying here, or I could be going to Milan in 2 weeks. There's a lot of that, and I think it helps you stay in the moment, helps you not hold on to stuff, helps you let go of things in a way. But it also helps you understand that life is very fleeting, and you will do things with people, you'll have moments that feel like 10 years or a lifetime, as it were. Or you might spend a long time with someone and you think back to it and it was like a blip. So I think the idea of time is really interesting, and the idea of almosts is very interesting in that way, because life is always a kind of longing and a yearning and a missing or gaining, right? The most interesting thing about life is like, can you be happy with what you have? I think absolutely you can. I mean, what does film and TV come from? Books, great books, you know, and good writing is everything. Yeah, I really do believe it's easy. I mean, all I'm doing is just reading out these lovely descriptive words, and Kiran's done the hardest job of like picking them, finding them. I truly believe, in my reading of this out loud, it feels like each word has been painstakingly chosen for moments and feelings. And I'm like, whoa, I love that. It's fun to read out loud. It evokes a lot of like interesting emotion throughout with all of these words, and a different palette of how to speak and to see things. I mean, that's the beauty of good writing. So all I'm really doing is just enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. And I would say Kiran did all the hard work of like truly bringing it to life. It's interesting because it's more about humanity and how we treat each other. So that's what Kiran really brings across with this. And well, it's difficult to read these things, but also I think it's been written in a way that it just takes you by surprise. And you're like, this is happening and this is fun. And then you're like there's no mention of like time of where we are. Like there's no 1955. You know what I mean? It's not like that. But you are very aware of your surroundings and how to behave because of the way the other characters are behaving. And you can feel that in this world, it's a time of, it's a tipping point, much like today, you know? It's a tipping point in society, and there's this societal tension building around. And so I think it's very relatable, and I think that it's very clever not to name it in a time, because it's happening everywhere. No matter where you are in the world, if you think we've progressed with LGBTQI rights, somewhere else they're moving 500 steps behind, you know. And it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but it's true. It's in so many parts of the world you can still get murdered for it. It's a basic human right law. I don't see why we're still arguing about it. And it does control so many people's lives and how they live, where they want to live, you know. So I do think that this is relevant, and in a lot of ways people will be feeling that quiet pressure. Why does it still have to be this way in a world that is moving in a different way?